everyone, hope you're having a wonderful and purposeful day. Welcome to the fifth episode in the series on the life of John Newton. At the end of the last episode, Newton was on the Greyhound sailing back to England with Captain Swanwick. In case you missed that episode, you can find it at the link here. Newton sailed as a guest lodging in the captain's cabin. Having no assigned duties, he stuck to doing what he knew best, being a troublemaker. Now, the Greyhound was a commodity trading ship in search of gold, ivory, and beeswax. The trip back to England, which included many business stops, was long and eventful. They traveled down the coast of Africa to complete their trading mission. Once they were done trading at their last stop in modern-day Gabon, Captain Swanwick decided to set sail to England. With supplies loaded up for the entire trip, the plan was to not stop at any ports along the way. Captain Swanwick's estimate was that they would reach England in about 5 months. As Newton had no duties on the Greyhound, he took up reading to pass time. Not having a lot of options on board, he started reading The Imitation of Christ by Thomas à Kempis. He was shaken by the truths in the book. The pattern of life recommended by the author to find true peace was to resist evil passions and to bear one's cross. Newton, convicted by the book, threw it away and tried to forget the truths he had read. He went to bed on the 9th of March 1748, resolving to continue living his life the way he wanted to. However, God woke him up in the middle of that night to change those plans. "We are sinking!" cried out a sailor as Newton rubbed his eyes trying to wake up. The strong winds that were blowing the Greyhound home across the Atlantic had become very strong. The Greyhound that had been at sea for 15 months was in no condition to face the strong winds and waves. The waves destroyed the side of the ship. There was a large hole through which water gushed in. The crew frantically pumped in and bailed water out, but the damage was too much. It was the beeswax and the camwood in the ship's belly that kept the Greyhound from sinking. As the storm subsided in the morning, the crew managed to get the flooding under control and tried to repair the severe damage by plugging pieces of wood and blankets into the holes. There was very little food left, as all the cattle had been swept into the sea and the flooding had destroyed most of the remaining supplies. With the majority of the sails torn and blown away in the storm, the Greyhound had to be carefully steered towards the Irish coast. Progress was slow, and Newton had enough time to recollect his mother's teachings and reflect on how he had willfully drifted away from God. In his desperation, Newton began to read the Bible and sought God's mercy and deliverance. He also recognized God's hand of protection through his entire adventure in Africa. Newton was turning back to God. Though he would go through brief periods of sinful indulgence, he had discarded his atheistic worldview. Finally, on April 8th, the Greyhound reached the Irish coast. There was much joy and celebration among the ship's crew. Newton immediately started attending church. There were clear improvements in his character. There was a new hunger for God in him. He wrote letters to his father and other relatives who feared the worst and thought that Newton had perished at sea. It took about 2 months to repair the Greyhound and return to England. Unfortunately, Newton Sr. had to sail to Canada and did not get to meet his son. Remember, Newton's motivation to return to England was to acquire the inheritance that Captain Swanwick had mentioned, and with that wealth in hand, to make a proposal for marriage to Polly. Well, he discovered that Captain Swanwick had lied to him. He was deeply dejected as Polly came from a respectable family and he could not make a proposal for marriage without wealth or a steady job with good salary. He had neither. However, what Newton did not know was that Newton Sr. had spoken to the Catholics on his behalf before heading off to Canada. Perhaps Newton had confessed his love for Polly in one of his letters to his father. Regardless, Newton had the approval of both his father and Polly's parents. All that was left was to find out if Polly had any desire for him. We'll see how it all played out in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode. As usual, like and share this video with others who may enjoy it. Please subscribe to my channel if you have not already done so. Also, if you have any suggestions on how I can improve my content and make it more interesting, I would love your feedback in the comments below. Take care and I'll see you next time.